Welcome to our Roth IRA office hours. I'm so excited to talk dinero with you today. I am going to start sharing my screen. I want you guys to ask your questions, really see this as an opportunity to walk out of here like very confident about opening up your Roth IRAs. Okay, so blow up the chat, ask your questions nonstop. I am here to serve you, and I'm so excited that we're here to talk dinero. So I'm going to just go ahead and share my screen. I have a lot to talk to y'all about today, and let's get to it. Oh, it's not sharing. No matter like how many times I always prepare and set this up in advance, I still always have my little tech issues. Annoying. All right, let's see. It's not sharing. Huh. Just open up a new little slide. Okay, let me know as I'm like setting up my tech. Let me know where you're tuning in from today. I am in Los Angeles. I'm wondering where everybody else is tuning in from.
Los Angeles as well.
Oh, cool. We got Chicago in the space. Yay. I have only lived in LA and New York City. I used to spend my summers in Mexico. Um, But like I'm like kind of like a city girl, but I have family in Mexico who lived in like a rancho, so I did get a lot of access to the country life, which I kind of love. And I feel like Beyonce really reminded me of my country roots. All right, let's go ahead and now what I see, you guys should be able to see my screen. And I will present. And okay, let me just make sure this chat is working. Hello. We have a lot of California folk in here. Okay, cool. All right, so this is not the correct slide. If you were here in June, these were all the slides from June. You'll see some of them also come up, but I really try to have each of these office hours be unique to every question that you specifically sent in. So, just an important disclaimer. This presentation is for educational purposes only. Wealth para Todos LLC does not provide legal, accounting, investment, or tax advice. Please consult qualified professionals for guidance on your specific legal, tax, investment, or accounting obligations. My lawyer makes me say that, so I said it. Um, Okay. A little bit more about me. I guess I was already telling you guys about where I'm from and my family. I didn't start learning about wealth building until I was 32 years old. It was 2019 when I got sick. I was put on disability, had to take a medical leave. And during that time, I started reading personal finance books. And that's when I started to like learn like, oh shoot, like I thought I had money because I had gone to college and I was able to afford eating out at restaurants. And as a kid, I never got to do that. And so I thought I was like good and I was like financially secure and I also had like a decent credit score. Little did I know how financially insecure I was. I was not planning for retirement at all. I didn't even know that you could retire because so many people in my family just kind of like worked forever. So at 32 years old, that's when I started to increase my financial literacy. I started posting what I was learning on Instagram in February of 2020. The originally my page was called Generational Wealth para Todos, and then I like shortened it. As soon as I started posting, people started telling me, "Can you help me? Can you help me?" And I had so much like imposter syndrome because I was self-taught. I didn't go learn. I didn't take any certifications. I was just reading so many books all the time and studying the IRS website, the investor.gov website. And so when people would reach out to me saying, like, can you help me? I was like, okay. And eventually that was happening so much that I did start to create my coaching business by October 2021. I've been featured in the media a lot. If you go to wealthparatodos.com under I think I have like a media and press section. You can see that I've been quoted a lot. I'm currently writing articles for Bankrate, and you could also check me out there. I've been interviewed on NPR. I think like 3 times now. I've been just featured in a lot of different places, even though I was self-taught, which I kind of think is cool. I focus on helping first-gen wealth builders increase their financial security poco a poco so they can become work optional con tiempo. I am somebody who, despite not getting all of this understanding until I was 32 years old, I am now on track to retire early at the age of 47. And that's what I want for all of us. I want us working because we want to, not because we have to. That's what work optional means. I have a podcast called the Wealth para Todos podcast. I launched it February 2025. If you want to learn more about me, check out those first three episodes. All right, about you. All right, so we had 33 people sign up for Roth IRA office hours. I cap it at 30, and some people weren't able to show up. So this is data from 33 people. 55% of you have a Roth IRA. 42% of you do not have a Roth IRA, and 3% of you are not sure. 82% of you have never maxed out a Roth IRA, which just means contributed to the maximum that you can contribute in a given year. The contributions, maxing out your Roth IRA can change. It's a different number every single year. Not every single year, pero cada cuando they change how much you can contribute to a Roth IRA. 18% have maxed out a Roth IRA. When I asked you if you'd like to contribute to a Roth IRA for a partner or for someone else, 21% of you said, I want to, but I don't know how. And 31% of you said yes. So we're going to say like 52% of you are thinking about investing for other people, and 48% of you said, no, not interested. These were all your questions, and I divided these questions based on the types. So we have some questions for folks who are completely new to Roth IRAs and just trying to understand what it is and how to begin. This is what your questions sounded like. We also had people who were like asked a lot more specific questions in terms of limits, eligibility, and unique contribution circumstances. If you're here today and I'm not answering your question in the presentation, please, please, please make sure that you drop them in the chat. Other questions had to do about platforms, advisors, and choosing investments. Then we also had questions regarding contribution strategy and cash flow concerns, and also comparing Roth IRAs with other options like 401ks and 403bs. If you were here for June's Roth IRA office hours, you're going to see that I added a new portion to this call based on all the questions here that we're asking kind of like about a lot of different investment accounts. So I wanted to make sure I covered that in this office hours. Then we also had some questions seeking reassurance, validation on your approach, questions about opening accounts for your children or relatives, and questions related to existing pension accounts. So we have 33 questions. I have this presentation, and I made it with the goal of trying to answer all those questions, but some of your questions are a lot more specific. And if you are here today, feel free to ask me in the chat or also just message me directly. So this is what we're going to cover based on the questions that you guys submitted. I'm going to talk about investing in the stock market, just like a general 101, then specifically about how to open a Roth IRA, then how to open a Roth IRA for a loved one. And then if we still have time, I'm just going to continue to ask questions. I'm also, just want to say this again, I'm willing to answer all your questions throughout this presentation. If you dropped a question right now, I would answer it. And then I'm also going to talk to you about working with me one-on-one. So let's talk about the 4 steps to investing in the stock market. It can be so simple. It is these are the steps. It's very simple in theory. 1, you choose a brokerage firm. 2, you choose an account. 3, you make contributions to that account. You put money in that account. And 4th, you choose your assets. You actually invest. That's all. That's all it takes. Very, very, very simple. However, we start getting into the nitty-gritty. When it's time to choose a brokerage firm, there are over 3,000 that you could choose from. A brokerage firm is just the company that gives you access to the stock market. If you're already investing through your job, if you have an employer retirement account, then your brokerage account was already pre-selected, most likely from your employer. And it could be like one of these, but you're already invested in the stock market. Okay. Like I didn't know at 32 years old that I was already investing in the stock market because I had started investing when I was in a public school math teacher in New York City, and I had a 403(b) account. So I was investing, but I didn't know. And what's funny is I actually thought at that time I was investing in a Roth IRA because I had learned about Roth IRAs from someone called Susie Orman. She used to have like this TV show. And so I thought I was investing in a Roth IRA, but Roth IRAs are different from your employer retirement accounts. So, first step, you choose a brokerage firm. These are some very popular brokerage firms. Looks like we do not have any questions yet. Drop them when you have them. The second step is that you choose an account. I also want to say something about over here. There's 4 steps to investing in the stock market, but each of these 4 steps come with a lot of different choices. And this is why a lot of times people get like analysis paralysis. I remember just deciding which brokerage firm I was going to invest with was like I was trying to read all this information and try to get all this info to make sure that it was like the safest one. Then when it comes to choosing an account, that is also like there are so many different accounts that you can invest in. And each of these accounts will determine how much you can contribute, when you could take the money out of the account, and how your investments are taxed. I'm going to talk about like the general forms of investment accounts. So there are retirement accounts like a Roth IRA, traditional IRA, SEP IRA, solo 401k, 401k, 403, 470B. These are employer-sponsored accounts, simple IRA. These are designed to encourage long-term investing with tax advantages. And when I say long-term investing, I'm talking about like 10, 15 years, sometimes even 30, like depending when you plan to retire. There's custodial accounts. So for everyone here who's like interested in investing in a child, a minor, you're going to be looking into custodial accounts. These are for minors controlled by an adult until the child reaches a majority age. Right now we have UGMA and UTMA. Those are the accounts. And with this big, bad, beautiful bill that was just passed, we may be having these new accounts called MAGA accounts, and they are also going to be a form of custodial accounts. Legislation impacts all these accounts. Only 11% of Americans have a Roth IRA. And the reason I think that only 11% of Americans have a Roth IRA is because it's a new type of account. The Roth IRA didn't come into place until, I don't know if it was a senator or a House of Representative, but I just know his last name was Roth, created this account, introduced it as legislation, and that was in the 1990s. And some of you may remember that in the 1990s, we were all obsessed with Bill Clinton and Monica Lewinsky. None of us were thinking about like, ooh, let's all learn about a Roth IRA. Okay. So that's something I want you guys to keep in mind too, that like all of this is always changing. It's why we always have to develop our financial literacy. New accounts are always being introduced. For a custodial Roth IRA, in order to invest, the child has to have earned income. One of the things that I always say is like I started working at the age of 16 and I didn't start investing until into a Roth IRA until I was 33 years old. All those years that I had been working, I could have been investing in a Roth IRA and I could have had money, 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 everybody. But I didn't know. Plus, a lot of my money was going to help my mom, but it is what it is. These are other types of retirement accounts. Okay, so we have these employer-sponsored retirement accounts, which I briefly described over here when it comes to retirement accounts. 401k for private sector workers, 403b for nonprofit education workers. When I was a public school teacher in New York City, I had a 403b, a 457 for government workers, TSP for federal employees and military. In California, I had a pension, CalSTRS. Okay. Only about 52% of private industry workers in the United States have access to employer provided retirement accounts. This is also like one of those things where it's like it, financial security is systemic. If you do not have an employer that provides a retirement account, then you're not going to be investing for retirement. And, that's the reality for a lot of people. Then there's also these tax advantage health or education accounts. An HSA, a health savings account, a 529 college savings plan, and ESA is a Coverdell education savings account. Now, I'm throwing a lot of different accounts with you guys because I want you guys to understand that like investing in the stock market is as simple as those four steps, but how you choose to invest in the stock market, there's a lot of different options. You can have multiple of these accounts. Like I have so many different investment accounts, and you can have them too. And then there's taxable brokerage accounts. These are no contribution limits, early withdrawal penalties. You pay taxes on dividends and capital gains. Something that I love about Robinhood is that Robinhood made investing in the stock market a lot more accessible. They had like a great marketing team. People are investing, except that a lot of people are investing in these taxable brokerage accounts. And when a big complaint that everybody has is, I don't want to pay that much in taxes. I want to decrease the amount of money I pay on taxes. And one of the ways that you can do that is making sure that you focus on contributing in these retirement accounts because they come with tax advantages. Okay, y'all came in with some questions. Let me answer them. How much should you be investing in percentage in a 403b with match and a Roth IRA? How to allocate appropriately? D, that is going to depend on your situation. This week on Sunday, I'm releasing a new podcast episode, and it's talking about the differences between traditional and Roth accounts. Definitely check that out. I would say in general, what I tell my clients when it comes to the 10 stages of financial security is that you work on first investing in your match to your 403b so that you have money that reduces your taxable income. If you are in a higher tax bracket, and higher tax bracket is in the 30s. So if you're 37%, 35%, and I want to say it's like 32%, then you're going to really want to focus on maxing out your traditional accounts first to reduce your taxable income, and then focus on investing in a Roth IRA so that in your Roth IRA, you have tax-free income at retirement. D, let me know if that answered your question. I have a 403b with my current job. I'm looking to move back to the private sector with my next job. Can you roll a 403b into a 401k, or would you just leave the 403b as it is and start a 401k with a new company? This is a great question. One, I want you to look up high, let me just type it in here, highcapitalize.com. This is a free service that will help you move your accounts. What you want to look into is what are the fees that you're currently paying with your current employer. So the one that has that 403b with your current job, I would like to see what are my expense ratios. Those are the fees that you pay to be investing. And you might find, and also what is your rate of return on your investments? You may find that you can get more of your money back and have more money grow if you choose to roll it over into a traditional IRA. You could also choose to roll it over into your employer. Not all employers allow you to do that, so that's an HR question. But and you can have like a 401k with your new company. You could roll over the money from your old employer into a traditional IRA. And just so you know, like you'll go through the four steps, and I can even show you a little how to do that later. Which of these companies withdraws fees or taxes that we don't ever know how much was taken out? All stocks or one of these? Okay, so when you say company, I'm assuming that you're talking about these brokerage firms. Okay. Fees, every single company is going to charge you to invest with them. Those fees can vary, and we're going to get into that when we talk about how to open up a Roth IRA, or more in step number 4 there in more detail. Now, taxes that you don't ever know how much was, and they have to be explicit. They have to tell you what their fees are and communicate that with you. If they don't, that's against the law. Taxes, they're not going to be the ones taking out the taxes. They're going to provide you with a form at the end of the year. Um, so, like your employer retirement account, you're going to get a W-2 at the end of the year that's going to say how much money you made and how much money you contributed to your 401k or your 403b. Roth IRAs, you contribute after you've already paid taxes. And then at retirement, you get to pull that money and you don't have to pay any taxes. And all stocks are one of these. Okay, I want to go back to this slide here because first you choose a brokerage firm, then you choose an account, third you make contributions, then you choose your assets. And your assets is when you're going to start to choose stocks. And it could be individual stocks, index funds, target date funds. So with all of these, you would be choosing, it depends on the assets that you choose to purchase. If I have a Roth IRA already and I'm investing in a target date fund, what would be best to invest in through a 403B, another target date fund, or an index fund? Okay, very good question. It that has to do more in terms of like your diversification of assets. We're going to get more into that during step 4 in a little bit. Okay, good questions. Keep them coming. And all right, so we talked about these different types of investment accounts. Then each account has different annual limits. So one of the things that you guys asked was like, how do I max it out? What does maxing out mean? Maxing out is going to, oops, I muted myself. Maxing out is going to change. Am I muted? No. Okay. Maxing out your accounts is going to depend on which account you're contributing to. So a Roth IRA or a traditional IRA, the maximum if you're under 50 years old is $7,000. If you're above 50, it's $8,000. In 2025, a 401k or 403b, the maximum that you can contribute if you're under 50 is $23,000. The maximum is 30,500. An HSA, which is a health savings account, is 4,150 by individual, 8,300 per family. And then this is a college plan, a 529. It's going to vary by state. There's often a lifetime limit. Rules for the contribution, eligibility, like who gets to contribute to each of these counts, varies based on your income and whether you or your spouse has access to a retirement account. So this is like when it starts to get like very nitty gritty. Okay. And that's, I think, again, where it could get confusing and why today we're specifically just talking about one type of account and that being the Roth IRA. Finally, you'll choose your assets and you have to like, it's separate like from a checking account or a savings account, right? In an investment account, you don't just put the money in there, you have to buy your assets. And your options can include individual stocks, like a single company share of like Apple or Tesla, ETFs, which is exchange traded funds, baskets. These are like baskets of stocks. This allows it to be more diversified, but they're traded like individual stocks. Index funds, which track the performance of a specific market index like the S&P 500. Target date funds, which one of you talked about, Angelica talked about a target date fund, which is designed to automatically rebalance on your expected retirement year. So, Angelica, one of the things that you might choose is to have a target date fund in your 403b and also have a target date fund in your Roth IRA. They don't have to be different. Because the diversification already comes. Now it depends also like what are your goals? Like maybe you might say like, you know what, my target date fund in my 403b, it's not as like it's preparing me for retirement. It's going to balance on its own. Maybe with my Roth IRA, I choose to be a little bit more risky and focus more only on stocks. A target date fund is going to have a balance between stocks and bonds. Stocks is what's going to make you money. Bonds is like more stable. But that also has to do with your risk tolerance. But you can totally have them in both if you wanted to. And then we also have REITs. This is real estate investment trusts, funds that invest in real estate markets, mutual funds. These are actively managed baskets of assets, and this can get a lot more expensive, okay? Because the expense ratios can be higher because there's somebody behind there saying what they're including in each mutual fund. And that means like which companies they're having to select the companies that they want to include in that mutual fund. And because somebody's making that decision, they are going to charge you more for it. And something also just to keep in mind is the index fund that tracks the S&P 500 has an average rate of return of 10%. And so whatever your rate of return is on in your investments, you always want to compare it to 10%. If it is not around 10%, then that probably means that your assets are a little too conservative. And maybe that's okay with you depending on your age and how soon you're going to need your money. The closer we get to accessing our money, whether it's because we're getting closer to retirement or because we're investing, for a house, we're investing our down payment for a house, and we're actually going to like sell those assets and get that money. The closer you get to it, you may not have that same risk tolerance to see the highs and lows that happen when you're investing in stocks. If you have a 401k or a 403b, you're probably already invested in a target date fund or index fund selected by your employer's plan. Usually, they're a lot more limited. They don't give you all the choices that you're going to be able to do when you open up a Roth IRA. All right, that was my little like recap when it comes to just investing in the stock market. Okay. So investing in the stock market one-on-one, it has to do with these four steps. It has to do with understanding your brokerage firm, choosing account, making contributions based on limits, and choosing your assets. How do we avoid putting all our eggs in one basket? If that makes sense, should we have a little of all of them? Well, it depends in terms of what you mean. Um, like when it comes to assets. Like, are you talking about assets or are you talking about accounts? Because one of the things that I do for myself, and I also encourage my clients to do, is to not only diversify their assets, but also make sure that they're diversifying their accounts, having like different accounts for different investment purposes. So I have my solo 401k. That's the account that's reducing my taxable income right now. I also have a Roth IRA. That's the money, that's the account that's grown for retirement that is going to allow me to take out money at retirement and not have to pay any taxes. Then I also have a taxable brokerage account for retirement. That's an account that allows me to invest. I'm having to pay taxes on the money that I put in. I have to pay taxes on it as it grows, and I'm going to have to pay taxes on it when I take it out. However, when it comes to retirement accounts, you don't get to access them until the age of 59 and a half. Since I want to retire at the age of 47, I need to have a taxable brokerage account so that I can pull it out sooner. So that's like a way of diversifying your accounts. When it comes to assets, the best way to diversify your assets is to choose one of these, an index fund or a target date fund. Okay. Because, or even like ETFs, individual stocks is like you saying like, I want to give you your favorite flower in the world. And then I'm gonna say, here's a sunflower. And you might be like, what? I don't even like sunflowers. I like roses. That's an individual stock. It's just one flower, one type of company. An index fund or ETFs or target date funds, it's a bouquet of flowers. And maybe I have like a bunch of different flowers in there, but the likelihood that you're going to have your favorite flower in a bouquet that has a variety of flowers is a lot higher than if I just showed up with one flower. Does that analogy make sense to you, Lily? Okay, good. All right, so now we're going to get into specifically how to open up a Roth IRA. First, you're going to choose your brokerage firm. I listed these four brokerage firms out of the 3,000 that you different have that you could choose from because I have accounts with each of them. That's it. That's the only reason that I shared these. I have clients who are investing in other accounts outside of these, but I have a lot of clients, right? So I would have been showing a lot more. The only reason I listed these is because I have investment accounts with each of these brokerage firms. So you would choose one. Then you choose your account. Specifically for this training, we're talking about Roth IRAs as long as you qualify. So we're going to talk, I have this little thing I'm going to share with all of you about the reasons why specifically I ride hard for Roth IRAs. There's 10 reasons why I say that you should open up a Roth IRA. I like the tax-free growth. You could also get tax-free growth through a Roth 401k or a Roth 403b, but not all employers provide them. You get those tax-free withdrawals at retirement, so you know that 100% of the money that you take out of your Roth IRA is not going to be taxed. So if tax laws change later on, you don't have to keep that in mind. You don't have to think about those differences. Then you have flexible contributions. What I mean by that is you can withdraw, you could take the money out of your Roth IRA at any time. Your contributions, not the earnings. Your earnings have to be there for at least 5 years. But your contributions, you can pull them out. So I had a client who lost her job. And what she did in, and she like had already dipped into her savings. It was taking some time for her to be able to find a new job. One of the things that she did is she pulled out her contributions to her Roth IRA and no, without any penalty, just took that money out, and that helped her avoid having to get into like high interest debt or any debt at all as she was looking for a job. Okay, so that's another reason why I like these Roth IRA contributions. Minimum distributions, you could leave that money in there. They've recently changed the laws. If you inherit a Roth IRA, which I'm a first-time wealth builder, like I'm not inheriting a Roth IRA, but my kids will. My kids will. They will have to take out money at a certain age, but not people who own it. They're ideal for younger, lower income years. You could use it for a first-time home purchase. So you could put money in your Roth IRA, invest in it, and withdraw up to $10,000 of the earnings without any penalty, as long as you've had your account for at least 5 years. Great for side hustlers and entrepreneurs. They're easy to automate. It could be used for a loved one's future too. I opened up my first Roth IRA using my husband's income under spousal IRA regulations, which is nice. Not all retirement accounts will let you do that, right? Like I couldn't contribute to my solo 401k using my husband's income. But with the Roth IRA, I was able to do that when I was a stay-at-home parent. And it helps you diversify your retirement strategy. Okay, so that's like my top 10 reasons why I'm like, everybody, you get a Roth IRA, you get a Roth IRA, you get a Roth IRA because of those reasons. Now, the next thing is as long as you qualify. Reasons why you may not qualify, you'd have to go to the IRS website, and it has to do with your income. If you are making too much, if you're married and filing jointly, if you are making more than $240,000, you can't contribute directly to a Roth IRA. You can do a backdoor Roth IRA. And if there's anyone here, I know that we got a question about that, but unless I get a question saying like specifically about that, then I'm not going to talk about it. Here, if you're single, head of household, married, filing separately, and you're making more than $161,000, again, you cannot contribute directly to a Roth IRA. Then, as long as you're making less than 146 as a single person or less than 230, then you could contribute up to the maximum and just do the limit. What else did I want to say about this section here? If something with a Roth IRA, like this is specifically like for anyone with teenagers, right, who are investing. So like 16-year-old me that was working, I think like I probably made, I don't know, I was making like $6 an hour, if that. And it was like during the summer. So let's say like in total, I made $2,000. The maximum that I could contribute to a Roth IRA is $2,000. So your maximum of how much you can contribute is going to either be based on how much money you make or how much money you earned. You have to have earned income in order to contribute to a Roth IRA. Next, okay, so I guess like right now, what I want all of you guys to think about is like look at how you file your taxes. Most of you are probably like here or around here, okay? If you're here, just make sure like, okay, how much money are you making a year? If you're making less, then you're like, oh, okay, then I can max it out. I want you to be aware of, do I qualify and what's the maximum I can contribute? And you're going to get that from this IRS website. Next, you're going to make your contributions. And minimum amount varies, maximum amount varies based on your age. Okay, and we just talked about that too. The minimum amount will vary based on that chart over here. Maximum amount is going to be based on your age. And so if you're 50 or older, you can contribute more to your Roth IRA. If you're less than 50, the maximum will be $7,000. And this amount is always changing. So it's something that like you're always gonna want to be updated about the Roth IRA maximum contributions. I want to say like when I first started investing in a Roth IRA in 2020, the maximum I can contribute was 6,000, and now it's 7,000. Next, you're gonna choose your target, you're gonna choose your assets. And that can look like doing a simple little search of like low cost target date funds for 2025. So this is how you would buy your assets. So let's say, let me actually walk you through. Let's say you open up your account at Fidelity. You'd go to Fidelity's website, you'd go to open an account up here, and you would say, open an account, open a Roth IRA. One of you talked about having Angelica. No, it wasn't Angelica. Marigold, you said that you have an account with the previous employer. For you, if you wanted to take that 403(b) with your um, current job, and then move it, and let's say your new private sector job doesn't allow you to transfer that money, then what you would do is open up a rollover IRA, and you would just put the money in there, and then you would continue to go through the 4 steps of investing. Everyone here, we'd click on open a Roth IRA. You would say you're a new customer unless you have your employer retirement account already with Fidelity, and then you would answer like a few questions. Oops, that's his big stuff. Are you already a Fidelity customer? You would say no. And then you would provide information regarding like your name, your social security, your date of birth, phone number, where do you live, your employer information, linking maybe like your checking account. Okay. So one, your brokerage firm would be Fidelity. Step number one. Step number two, the account that you would open is a Roth IRA. Step number three, you would decide how much you're going to contribute. We have a question. Yes. So this is the company that I shared in the chat earlier. This is the fastest way to move your old 401(k)s, and they'll find it for you. So I would go through them, and then I mean, this happened to me. Like I said, I didn't know that I was even investing in California. And then I found out that because I was investing in a pension, and I was never like looking at my pay stubs. And then I think I had like, I don't know, I did an Instagram post about it back in the day in 2020. And I think I had like $30,000 invested with CalSTRS. So yeah, you definitely want to look in to see if you have old 401(k)s, old employer retirement accounts from earlier in your career. And I hope you do. I hope everyone does. I have a little candle back there. I'm manifesting that everyone here has like money that they don't even know they have. That'll be good for us. Okay, you gotta focus. Okay. Third, you're gonna make your contributions to the Roth IRA. So you'll decide, like, oh, maybe you say, you know what, I have this extra $1,000. I'm just gonna contribute this 1,000. Maybe you decide, you know what, I'm gonna do it poco a poco. I'm gonna start with $20, and I'm just gonna make an automatic contribution every month. Maybe you're like, you know what, I have a lot of extra cash in my high yield savings account. It goes beyond my emergency fund. It goes beyond my sinking funds. I'm ready to just max out this Roth IRA all at one time. And you move $7,000 if you're under 50 or $8,000 if you're older than 50. And you just do it, that one contribution, and you make that link. The fourth step is you have to choose your assets. And so we come to this part where these are some examples of target date funds. And I want you to notice this because this article says these are target date funds with low costs. I would never choose a target date fund that was above 0.45%. Most of my target date funds are below 0.15, if not 0.12. And I just want to show you quickly why that matters. If we look up a expense ratio calculator, and let's say that you decided, all right, I have $0 today, but starting every single year for the next 15 years, I'm going to max out my Roth IRA. And you plan to contribute $7,000 for the next 15 years. And let's actually look at this rate of return here. So if we look at, take that ticker symbol, drop it here. All right, so this one's rate of return for year to date is 9.30%. That's what YTD stands for year to date return. That's the rate of return on investment. If we look at the maximum, it doesn't tell us. Let's see if we could get more information. I usually like to look at least 10 years of data for an account. But this is not giving us one. So we'll just go with this one. Let's just say that this is your rate of return, 9.30%. And your expense ratio here is 0.08%. You're contributing $7,000 every single year for 15 years. 7,000 times 15 means that you contribute a total of $105,000. But because you're investing it, and this is your rate of return, you end up with double, more than double that amount of money. That $105,000 that you invested turns into $228,000, $394.40 after fees. This is what you would pay the expense ratios. This is why that matters, the cost in fees, 1,612. Let's compare that. Let's say that you had this expense ratio of 0.61% for that exact same fund. Your $105,000 would be grow still to double the amount. However, you would pay $11,988.20 in fees. Like, would you rather spend $11,000 in fees or $1,000 in fees, right? Like, I feel like all of us would be like, I'm trying to save $10,000. So this is why it's important that you are aware of your expense ratios. Now, I'm curious to see if this target date fund specifically has a higher rate of return than the one that, no, oh my God, look at that. See, crusty dusty. This retirement fund has a rate of return of 8.31% and it has a higher expense ratio. Mm-mm. We do not like that. I'm just going to show you guys how choosing to invest in that target date fund would mean not even $200,000. So you wouldn't double your money over that time span. So quick little lesson here. Everyone pay attention to your expense ratios, the fees that you're paying to invest. Why would someone choose higher expense ratios? Great question, Alyssa, because we're not taught this. Nobody's telling us about expense ratios. We look at our options. Sometimes people are only looking at their higher rate, like maybe they see a higher rate of return. So I mean, that has a lower rate of return. But let's say it was higher than this one. Let's say it was 10% rate of return. Then you really want to look at the math to see like, is this still worth it? Notice you're still going to pay higher in fees, but you want to look at that stuff. So you always want to be looking at that term. Yeah, none of us heard of the term expense ratio. That's not a term that we're familiar with, that people talk about. So you want to look at that. You want to be playing with this calculator. It's called a mutual fund calculator, growth and fees. And if you even just Google like expense ratio calculator, it shows up. And always be checking that. Okay. One of the fastest ways that everyone here can save money is if they can go look at their employer retirement accounts, any accounts where you currently have target date funds, and see what your expense ratios are compared to anything that's lower. So if we look at another one, this is like a Fidelity target date fund. We can see, look, that one has a higher rate of return than the one that we had at Vanguard. The expense ratio is also slightly higher. Okay, but this is like higher rate of return and lower expense ratio. So some things that like can also limit someone, like let's say that somebody is investing right now in T Rowe. So that's a brokerage firm. So they opened up their accounts with T Rowe, and maybe they opened it up with them because they like passed by their building. And so it felt like a little bit more familiar. And so now they're choosing assets that have like that name. And then they're ending up with those higher ratios. Part of the reason why I also like the companies that I've specifically chosen to invest in is because they tend to have low expense ratios. Very much Fidelity, very much Vanguard, Charles Schwab, E-Trade, but they're not as high as I've seen in others. Now, something also to keep in mind is that you can have an account, like your Roth IRA can be with Vanguard, and you could potentially choose to buy a Fidelity target date fund from them. But that's where fees start to like get a little bit higher. Okay, because then it's kind of like you can buy Nikes at the Nike store, or you can buy Nikes at Nordstrom's Rack. Well, that's not a really good example because Nordstrom's Rack, you're probably going to buy your Nikes cheaper. Or you could buy, I don't even know, do they sell Nikes at like at the Adidas store? I think they do. I think you could like, I guess it's like buy these other shoes from other places, but then you're not going to necessarily get the best deal. All right. I'm looking at the time. We have 14 minutes left. Target date funds is one way that you can choose your assets. It's one of the simplest ways. If we look more specifically at this target date fund, let's go with the Fidelity one since it had a higher rate of return. Things that we're looking for is, again, the rate of return over time. Okay. And also the expenses, we're looking specifically for like expense ratio. We're seeing that number right there. We could also see how what's invested in this target date fund. So 50% of it is US equities. That's just stocks. 35.85% is international stocks, non-US equities. Then 9% is bonds, and then this is like short-term other stuff. And if you wanted to, it tells you specifically that it's following an index fund. That's what makes it cheaper. And so one of the things that you could decide to do if you really want to save as much as your money when it comes to these expense ratios is instead of having a target date fund and where it automatically balances by itself, you can choose to just purchase each of these things individually. So let's say you wanted to get the index fund that tracks the total stock market, which is already in this target date fund. You click on that. Notice that over here, the expense ratio, 0%. It's free if you choose to just buy that one yourself. Okay. Let me know if you guys have questions. All right. So some people, instead of doing a target date fund, they just create their own index fund portfolio. A wonderful resource. If that is something you want to do, is read this book, The Simple Path to Wealth. He talks about like creating, he was like somebody who was big in terms of the financial independence movement, trying to get people to retire early and creating a portfolio that is just like just four index funds, one that tracks the US stock market, international stock market, US bonds, and international bonds. Very simple. Very simple, just like he says, The Simple Path to Wealth. This was the book that I read that finally, like I had put money into my Roth IRA, $2,000, but I hadn't chosen to invest it yet because I was so scared and so nervous. After I read this book, I was like, okay, I could do this. So that's a book I'd recommend. Okay, let me see. How to open up a Roth IRA for a loved one. Make sure they have earned income or meet the income limits. If you're married and filing jointly, you can open up a spousal IRA like I did. It's not going to show up on an account as spousal IRA. It's still going to be Roth IRA. It's just going to be legal for you to do it because you have spousal income. And then just follow the same steps for your loved one. Choose a brokerage firm, open up that Roth IRA account, contribute the money, and choose your assets. Maybe a target date fund, maybe some index funds. All right. We still have time, but I will just share this right now. If you would like to hire me as your one-on-one coach, I would love to work with you. You would get 12 45-minute one-on-one calls, 3 calls every single month, where we're just talking specifically about your finances. In one-on-one coaching, my goal is for you to be able to max out a Roth IRA for yourself and for a loved one. Depending where you are with your finances, you might come in already with like enough cash flow and we're able to do that like really quickly. Depending, you might be like still working on building an emergency fund or sinking funds and all of that. And so then we work on increasing your income and making sure you're in the wealth building cycle. You have access to me via WhatsApp for 4 months. So you could just send me messages with questions or status updates in terms of the homework that I give you. And then you also get access to Wealth para Todos Academy for 12 months, which is my group coaching program where we meet. There's 9 different live calls every single month. And there's trainings to continue to help you develop your financial literacy, work on increasing your income, evaluate your money thoughts, and also making sure that you're checking in with your numbers. There's also a curriculum and a community. Wealth para Todos Academy. Love that program. It's my little baby. So that's a little bit about one-on-one coaching. I am going to drop here in the chat a call. I highly suggest all of you to think about working with me one-on-one. Just submit this call. Like you can schedule a time for us to meet. It's a 45-minute call. We'll talk about where you are right now, where you want to go. I'll share with you like my plan of what we would work together in those 12 one-on-one calls. And then you get to decide like, oh, do I want to work with solar or not? But it's something, it's free. It doesn't cost you any money. It will just cost you your time. But I would love to talk to you one-on-one and even work with you one-on-one long term. All right, lovelies, we have 9 minutes. What other questions do you guys have about anything that I've shared? Did I answer your questions? Does your brain hurt? Because like so many new vocabulary terms and so much information. I understand if that's how you're feeling too. All right, let's see. Okay. Halisa says, the last part about mutual funds or what? So choosing your assets, we talked about target date funds, index funds, and ETFs. When it comes to a mutual fund, let's actually do some Google searches. If you have a ticker symbol that you want me to like evaluate, we could do that. But let's just look up mutual funds. Yeah, let's see if there's like a best mutual funds for July 2025. So let's see, where are they? So this is a mutual fund. It is, we'll just copy the ticker symbol, put it in Google. We can see that the rate of return has been 11.59%. That's pretty high. The expense ratio is 0.62%. That's also on the higher side. If we want to look specifically in this, now something to remember about mutual funds is that they are actively managed. Okay. And if we want to look inside of what this specific mutual fund has, it's these companies. These are the different companies that you're investing in when you choose to get this mutual fund. Alyssa, let me know if that answers your question or if you have follow-up questions based on what I just shared right here. All right. Thank you for sharing some ticker symbols. So somebody asked me, which would I choose from between these two? So this is an index fund, Vanguard's index fund that tracks the S&P 500. These are the top 500 companies in the US stock market. So that's that one. Then we also have this one. This is a index fund that tracks every single company that is invested in the US stock market. Okay. So
do you
Angelica?
think do you think you're sharing your screen? Because we don't see a shared screen.
No, this entire time?
The last 5 minutes or so, maybe.
Okay, Marigol says that she can see it. Maybe check the tabs on the top to see if you just like
Oh,
sometimes like
sorry,
on the
got it,
Zoom.
got it.
Okay, good.
Yeah,
It's okay. I was
sorry.
like that has happened to me during Wealth by Todos Academy. So I get nervous. Thank you. I'm glad you could see it. Okay, so this is an index fund that tracks the entire stock market. If we look at its performance over time. Oh, something I want to share with all of you guys is that you're going to see different dips. So this was in 2020 when we were experiencing COVID and the market crashed. Back then, if you were trying to buy this index fund, it would have cost you $61.76. In 5 years, that same index fund has now grown, and its current value, if you wanted to buy it, is $148.80. You're going to hear stories cada vez en cuando of like, the S&P 500 has dropped, the stock market has dropped. Yes, those things are normal. I just want you to notice how overall it's always going up. Earlier this year, we had times where, the market had crashed, and I know a lot of my clients were really nervous and scared because it's like Trump is president and his tariffs, and he's doing things that we hadn't seen before. And I just said like, hold, hold. And what we already see is that we're already back to where we were before he was elected. So that's something I think whenever you get a little nervous, just zoom out. Okay, back to Angelica's question. Angelica says, if I had a choice, which one would I do? I'm actually invested in both of these in different accounts. I have my I have a Fidelity taxable brokerage account where I keep my house maintenance fund. And it is an account that is 3% of the value of my house. And I put money in there to cover in case of like an emergency, specifically related to household maintenance. And I have it in there, and I believe that in that account, I'm invested in what's not going to be VTSAX. It's going to be like the Fidelity version of it. But it's basically like Fidelity's stock market index fund. And then I know like in my Roth IRA, I that is an account. No, my Roth IRA has a target date fund. My solo 401k, I have like a lot more invested in the S&P 500. Yeah. So if I had it, I mean, I invest in both in different types of accounts. Something to keep in mind is if you're investing in this total stock market index fund, you are also investing in the S&P 500 because this includes every single company versus the S&P 500 is only the top 500. And so when you buy both index funds, what you're doing is essentially doubling up on some of your assets for certain companies. Let me know if that answers your question. Oh, great question, Melissa. How often do you recommend checking in on your investments? Once a year. Once a year. It depends. Like if you have a target date fund, you don't have to check on it so often because it's rebalancing for you. If you are doing individual stocks and index funds, checking in on it once a year, maybe twice a year to rebalance it is more than enough. Also, like I said, like when you're just making contributions, some people set up automatic contributions. I know for me, I do my manual contributions just because I'm an entrepreneur and I don't always have like that extra cash flow to invest consistently. D said, what is the Fidelity Total Market Index Fund? Let's look up the ticker. Fidelity Total Market Index Fund. So that ticker symbol is this one. FSKAX. And what it just means is like it is through Fidelity. Fidelity like bunched this up together. The expense ratio is 0.015, and that's it. Does that answer your question, D? Okay. I hope to see you guys on a discovery call. I would love to be your one-on-one coach. If you ever have any other questions, feel free to email me. Or if you're not on my email list, like get on my email list, just respond to any of the emails. I check all my emails. And also you could DM me on Instagram. I check all my DMs too. All right, everyone. Hasta luego. Have a good one.